Hey YouTube, XCity here. I'm back with a new video series where I'll be doing a pen test on a big Active Directory environment and you can join along. So what can you expect from this? We will be setting up and using a C2 framework, in this case Sliver. We will bypass modern defenses. This means AV, EDR, App Blocker, Windows Defender Application Control and many more. We will exploit an Active Directory environment with various Linux and Windows machines, MS SQL servers, Active Directory certificate services, domain and forest trusts, and many more. So I hope you enjoy this series and let's get started. So throughout this series, we are going to use a C2 framework called Sliver. This one is pretty good. It's totally free and I think it's one of the closest things you can get to Cobalt Strike. So it will do a good job for this video series. It has a lot of interesting features that you can read here. One of them is in-memory net assembly execution, which I guess is pretty default, but it's also like super useful. We will use that one a lot. And I don't want to go like through all the features now. As soon as we use one, encounter one in the lab, I'm just going to explain it a bit. For now, you just want to clone the repository to follow along. I cloned this into my tools Sliver directory here. So let's start the Sliver server first. Then you've started for the first time, it has to do some initial configuration here, and then you get the Sliver console. So what you can do in the console is basically everything you expect from a C2 framework. You can generate payloads, beacons, you can generate listeners, you get the connections here, you can interact with your beacons, issue shell commands and all of that. And this is all fine if you do it on your local VM. But there's also something called multiplayer mode. And basically you start the server and you can also start a client that connects to the server, where you basically get exactly the same console. It's just that you do it on your client. And the server can be remotely somewhere on the internet if you wish to. But even locally, it makes sense to do it like that, because if you accidentally close the server, obviously the beacons will have trouble connecting back. And if you accidentally close the client, nothing bad will happen. So let's start this multiplayer setup. So first we are going to create a new operator and we are telling it that the connection will come from localhost. So let's do that. And we also have to put Sliver into multiplayer mode. And now a port opened where it's listening on client connections. So now we go here and start the Sliver client, but we also tell it to import the config we just generated. So now that we have that, we can actually start the client and it will connect to the server. And now, as you can see, we basically have the same shell. It's just that if I close it here, basically nothing bad happens and I can just reconnect. So this will be a bit better for us in the end. Well, for now, we don't need it yet. So we're just going to create a listener. I'm going to use port 53 here. Maybe one word to the listener. I used MTLS here, which basically means mutual TLS. This is a TCP listener, but the communication over it is encrypted. And if you do jobs, you can basically see the listeners. You have two here. There's gRPC. This is actually the port used to connect to the server. And we have the mutual TLS listener, which we just created. For now, that's basically all we have to do. I'm just going to do one more thing here. I'm going to do armory install all. And what this will do for us is it will install all the third-party post-exploitation scripts. And after a while it's finished, you can see it installed a lot of useful tools for us like Rubius and Certify and many others. Of course, you can use your own tools and just use them with execute assembly. This is just like an easy way to get the most common tools ready for use on your VM. So to get started, we want to look at the port scan of the entry point, and we can see there's SSH, there's a mail server. So let's save that here. On port 80, there's a website, which seems to be some kind of VPN gateway, and it's using PHP. And a bit further down, there seems to be a certificate here, which has another host name. Let's save that one as well. And there doesn't seem to be anything beyond that. So let's try to see if there's a website here and what it's about. And here we get some login for this VPN gateway. Other than just trying things here, we can also do some light fuzzing. So let's actually do that. Just go, I don't know, here to a new window, and then do an F5 like this, using the small directories list here, and just doing AC for automatic calibration to see if there's anything there. There seems to be a backup directory and mail, so let's have a look at these before we do anything else. If I copy that here and go to mail, we can see there's actually a round cube. So if we had credentials, we could probably log in here and do something with mails. Let's see also if we can get something in the backups directory. And no, it's forbidden, so we can't at least list the contents here. So maybe we want to fuzz this backup directory as well, just like this. And we can see there's a DB file. Say we just grab that one like this. Let's just call it DB as well, and then do a file on it. And we see it's a tar archive. So if we like unpack it, we get a DB file. Let's do a file on that one as well. And this seems to be a SQLi database. So we can explore that one. Let's see. Let's use the SQLite browser here. Browse data, and we can actually see some user. There's a VPN admin and there's a couple of other users. We see their email and also their password hash. So this is one way to get started on this machine. You can crack it and you can log in. But there's also another way, and I'm going to show that one next. So for the other way, we could try if there's some SQL injection here, right? That's always worth trying. It's a bit loud, you can get detected, but it's just one of the things you want to usually try, I guess. So let's just put any user here, any password, intercept it in burp. Look at the request, looks pretty normal. We send one to the repeater, forward it, and we get username or password is invalid. Well, because I just entered something, right? So let's look in the repeater. We get this here as well. And let's try for SQL injection just by like using a quote here. And there's an error. We can see that there's indeed some kind of issue. And it's even like showing us part of the statement. So the statement is probably something like select star from users where, and then we probably get this piece here, which is username equals probably something like this, and password equals pass. So I would assume the query looked something like this, right? And we can inject into this username parameter. And this here is a giveaway, basically, that there are prepared statements in use. So they used prepared statements for the password, but not for the username. And if you think about this query, what this really means is that we can't just terminate the username like this, do or1 equals 1, and then close it, because the prepared statement will complain that this field here was never filled. We can actually try that. If we just do it like that. Usually that would be a login bypass, right? But nothing is happening. And this is a bit strange. You would expect at least like an error message, right? So maybe there's a really simple web application firewall in place. Maybe we can just change this 1 equals 1 to something like, I don't know, this is bigger than 0. And now we get basically around that. It's just a really simple filter here to make you like think of it. Let's see. Now we get a column index out of range. And this is basically what I described here. We're ending the statement, and the next line in the PHP would still try to fill this pass field. And it's no longer there, so it can't do it. So how can we get around that? Well, we have to basically complete the statement. So what we can do is we can do something like I did here. So let's copy that. But we don't want to close the statement. What we want to do is we want to make sure we just repair it, right? So we could do left equals right. but let the original quote end it. So this way we have repaired the original statement. If I copy that down here and just enter that here, we have basically closed this. We added a true statement and we added another statement that's wrong, but it completes like the whole thing. So it's still valid and it can actually fill the prepared part here. So let's actually try that. Let me see. It was this part. And let's do an intercept again here. Then we do it like that and see what happens. You can see that actually worked, right? We get redirected to dashboard.php. So we are now actually logged into the application as VPN ADM because that's just the first entry in the database. So let's explore this app a bit. There's a VPN packs area here, and I guess if we click generate, yeah, we actually get a VPN pack. There wasn't a VPN port open, so it doesn't seem like we can actually use them. But if you think about how this is probably implemented, there has to be some kind of command being run on the machine to generate this VPN pack, right? If we go to status here, it even is telling us that the server is temporarily offline. So that explains why the port isn't open. But the fact still remains that there are VPN packs and they have to be generated somehow, right? And the server also has to keep track of which user generated which pack. They can do that by some kind of ID or anything like that. But what they also can do is they can do it by using the username. So this is pretty interesting because maybe we can influence our username in this generate statement. And if we go to account here, it actually allows us to modify our username. And if you refresh, you can see it updated here. So what if we try to inject some commands here, right? We could try something like just close this off, do a cat, I don't know, etc pass WD, and just see if that works. Let's save it. It actually updated it here, so there are no like filtered characters in that one. And if we go to VPN packs, go and generate, we can see that actually works. We got a LFI here. And we could explore the file system a bit with the LFI, but if you think about it, we have a command injection. So maybe there's like a way to get directly RCE, right? So let's think about that here. We could do something like this and then actually write a command here. Maybe there's something that would help us. The usual payload I use is to just grab a shell script of my machine and run it. And I usually use this, show it quickly, rash.py, which is basically just a Python script that generates a file that tries all the different ways here to get a reverse shell. It's nothing fancy. There are very many variants of this. It's just always a quick and easy way to get a shell. So let's actually run this like this. This is my IP. You can see it here at the top. And we want to make it connect back on port 443. So let's generate one of these. Now we have this X file here, and we want to copy it to my www directory. So I also already have a web server listening. It's here, and also an SMB server, but we don't need it yet. So maybe I can do like curl on my IP, grab the script, and then pipe it to sh. So it actually gets executed directly without getting stored on the file system. So let's save that, refresh, and we can see there's a problem. You can see that the dots here actually got replaced by underscores. So there is some very basic character filtering in place here. So we got to get around this somehow. One way to do this is you can actually convert your IP to another format. So it's just a decimal value and doesn't contain any dots. And this is exactly what we're going to do. Just going to use Google here to find some converter. And then we want to take our IP here, convert it, And this is actually the decimal value. So now we can try to do this again with like curl the decimal value, our X file, type it to sh and do it like that. And if we refresh, we can see that now all of the characters we entered actually ended up correctly in the username. And actually, one more thing, you can also do this in Python, so you don't really have to use one of these online converters. We can do import IP address, and then we can do it like that. Just copy that so it gets faster. Basically, we can use this class to convert it to an integer and get the same result. It's the same we got from the online converter, right? So you don't have to use that one. Okay, so we got our payload in the username. Let's click generate and hope that something happens. Let's see. We actually didn't get a hit here, so let's see. Our username seems to have reverted back. This can sometimes happen because there are cleanup scripts on this machine, but it's not really something that does hinder the exploit or so. So let's just do it again. This xsh, save. It's in the username. We go to VPN packs, we click generate. Have a look at our web server, and we actually get a hit here. And we can see that we actually got a shell on the machine. So normally at this point, we would add our key to authorized keys to get some persistence here. But that isn't going to help because we are data and he doesn't have like a home folder and isn't even allowed to log in normally. So there isn't really anything we can do here. Let's just try to get some awareness here. Let's look at processes. Okay, this seems to be our shell. It seems to be executed more than once, but it's not really an issue. There's a SQL database here. Another thing we can see is that the Elastic agent is running here. So there's actually a V on the box. If you would try to like upload Metasploit or something like that, you would be out of luck. It would just get detected and removed. But other than that, there's also dovecut. We already saw it on the port scan, but here it is again. And this seems to be it, like from the first things. Let's also look at open ports. MySQL, we already saw that. Yeah, there are all the mail server ports. There's our web server. Let's think a bit about what we want to do next, right? There was this Roundcube installation. So there have to be user passwords somewhere. Roundcube is basically just logging into dovecut to send mail. So Roundcube needs the clear text credentials. And dovecut also needs the credentials because that's the application actually that's asking for the login, right? So there are basically two ways to approach this. You can try to get something from Roundcube because it actually stores the passwords in user sessions, or you can explore dovecut. And we are going to go for dovecut here. So let's go to the configuration directory, and we can see there's a file here called dovecut users. And in this case, the admin stored the passwords for the users in clear text. This is admittedly pretty rare, but it's still something that could be checked because it's in some online guides. So if you like Google setup Roundcube and dovecut on Ubuntu, you will definitely find a guide that does it like this. So chances are some admin also did it like this. So we're going to save these, of course, and now we got a lot of credentials here that we can use on the Roundcube login, basically. So let's just try them. So the login actually works. We're inside this mailbox, but we're out of luck because there are no mails here. So let's try the next user. There are a lot of mails here. William Davis seems to be sending some kind of tool, so we'll keep that in mind. And also we can look into the sent mails from Ashley. One of them is a picture of a beautiful cat, but there isn't really much more to it. And one of them is asking William to send her the HR tool because she doesn't have it anymore. So this explains these emails. Apparently William is trying to send her this tool, right? You can also look in the trash, but there isn't really anything here. Let's keep looking. It's worth to explore all of them. All right, there are some in the inbox here. These are the mails we just saw from Ashley that she sent. And also in Send, there are some more. There are the HR tool mails, and there's one here called Security Update. Let's see. Hey, Ashley, sending you the key so you can patch the vulnerability in our VPN gateway. The password is the usual one. We started to roll out our new EDR, and I think your machine is one of the first ones to get it. Please let me know if it causes any problems. Okay, it's also mentioning the EDR, which we just saw. And there's an private key here. So let's download that one. And it's saying us password is the usual one. So we probably want to like either guess it or try to build a word list, right? So let's copy this file here. We had IDRSA 1, I think it was. Let's just call it web01.key. Let's look at the file. Yeah, looks like a normal SSH private key. One of the things that are important here, these keys always want a new line at the end, and in this case it's missing. And this will ruin your day. So always add the new line here if it's missing. It will give some like libcrypto error or something if you don't do it. So now we have the key. We can either try to guess it, and if you like look at the passwords here, maybe there's something you would try. You would try this one, right? This looks like the what could be the default for the company. So let's try that first. Actually, let's fix the permissions on the key and then do root and just hope it's the root key. But it should be because it's for administration, right? Entering Shinra 2022, it doesn't work. If we do Shinra 2023, here we are in, and we are root. So if you don't want to do that, you can also build a word list. I'm also going to do that, so you can actually see how you would do it if you wanted to go that way, right? So there's a tool which I really like. So let me show you. It's this one called Kraken. And it's just a tool to build word lists. But the good thing here is it can't just like combine words from lists. It can also like take the hashcat syntax of like adding digits. So if we go down here, this is a good example here. You can do like, it loads two word lists, and you can say you want a word from the first list, a word from the second list. You want one, and you want a couple of digits. Like in the example, you can see it's first names, last names. So you get first name, last name, and then the year, which is the digits here. And we can also do it like that. So let's actually try that. Let's build a really simple like word list here. We can do like Shinra, Ashley, William. The picture was called Kato, and we can like try all of these things if we want to. And if we have that, we can like generate a list. So we have our word list here, and now we have to tell it the format. We want to have a word from the first list. And if we want to do years, right, we can do 20 to get all the years starting with 20, and then have it add 2 digits. And let me see, something went wrong here. Oh yeah. And then we get a list like this with all the years added to the words we had in the word list. And of course, you can do it differently. It's just an example on how you would create such a list with this tool. So we can do like, let's just call it out.txt here. And then we can do John out.txt and then on the hash. We don't have the hash yet, but this is how it would work. We can do now SSH to John on web1, which is the key, right? And we just put it in a file called web1.hash. And then we run John. I already cracked it, so let me just remove my pod file here, run it again. And you can see that actually cracks. So this is how you would do it if you are not really good at guessing the key. You can just build a word list that makes sense and try it. Other things to try would be like months or seasons or stuff like that, right? Stuff that could be like common for a default password. And yeah, this gives us a root on the first machine, and we can get the root flag. So to summarize, we set up Sliver like we wanted to. We analyzed the foothold system. We used SQL injection to bypass the authentication. We then used the command injection on VPN pack generation to get a data shell on the machine. We used the shell to enumerate the box and found the DAVCAD clear text credentials. We logged into the mails, and we basically got this private key, which gave us a root on the machine. But we also saw that Ashley is waiting for a specific HR tool. So there might be a chance that we can send her one and she will execute it. And in the next video, we will do exactly that. We will go over how you would generate a payload so that you can send her an executable that will bypass the AV and actually give you a beacon in your C2 framework. So thank you for watching and see you next time.